So Ernest Holmes says, every person's religion is an answer to the cry of the soul for something which is real, something which may be relied upon, a resting place for which everyone instinctively feels a need. Everybody has a religion. So I want to share with you a short story before I talk about what is religion. So yesterday I was sitting in my office and I was talking to Carol, and I was like, my talk tomorrow is like, what is religion? And I've got it planned. I'm going to talk about the 5 major religions, tell them what how big they are, what they practice, how they're similar to science of mind. And I don't know about you guys, but if you've ever created something and you're just not feeling it, it's like, and I'm not all that familiar with all these different religions, so I would have to sit up here and read, and I don't like to do that because I feel disconnected from everybody. And so then I had a second talk in my back pocket, if you will, and kept going back and forth. Am I going to talk about what is religion? Am I going to talk about this? And so David and Christine get here early on the first Sunday of the month because they're both in service. And I said to David, if you had an opportunity to talk about what is religion or football, what would you talk about? And he said, how about what is religion as football? And I went, brilliant. Because what we forget is football is a religion. And so, see, I know, no doubt, we're all dressed in our jerseys. It makes us believe we're bigger than ourselves. It absolutely brings us together as a community. Regardless of who you're rooting for, you come together as a community, either in people's homes or at a football game. Though, we call them rabid fans, they're rabid believers. They are rabid believers. We are so excited in September. We know the Hawks are going to make it to the Super Bowl again. Don't we? Now, if you've been a Hawks fan for a long time, because I know some people get on board with their teams. I did this with the Warriors. I'm not shameful about it. I am a Warriors fan because I wouldn't know who they were if they were not winning, and I love. Then you meet the team, and I love the team. And that's how I became a Warriors fan. Totally because they're winning. I don't know how I'll feel when they start to lose. Maybe not as attached, because they're not here in Seattle. I was here when Seattle started their team. That is my team. Always my team. I'm smart, though. I grew up watching football. It was my religion growing up. That's how my dad and I connected. And isn't that what religion is about? Connecting with people, heart to heart, soul to soul, mind to mind. My dad would come home, and this was before remote control. Yes, there was a time there was no remote control, for those of you that are younger than me. And he would walk in and walk by our colored TV, and it was push button, and he would just push a button. Didn't matter what I was watching. Dad was home now. We were going to watch what he watched. And if it was Sunday or Monday night, we were watching football. So I grew up watching football. And so it was a religion. It was that connection. It was that belief that my thoughts could change the outcome of something. That didn't always work when you were a Seahawks fan in the early days. We should have been the team that came out with the bags over our heads instead of the New Orleans Saints. And yet, I never stopped being a Seahawks fan, because that's that connection. That's that connection that I want people to feel here at Genesis. That connection of we always have something to talk about. We always see each other. We have something to root for. We have something to be of service to. And so football is just a mirror of what we're doing here in some respects. Not always. Trust me, I watch enough football to know we don't want to mimic some of the stuff they do. And yet, as a smart fan, especially in the early days of the Seahawks, I always had second fans, or second teams. And it would usually happen right about the end of the season, depending on how bad the Seahawks were. Sometimes it happened before that I would start to pick up on another team that was doing pretty well, and then I'd become one of those people that, yay, I have somebody to root for in the playoffs. Yay, I have somebody to root for in the Super Bowl. Because we want to feel connected. That's why you come here on Sundays. You could watch this on Facebook Live. You could wait and see this after it's posted on our webpage. You come here because we are people, and there is something within us that wants to feel connected. That absolutely wants to feel connected. And some of us get scared about that connection, and so then we stay at home and we think that, well, I'm connected. I'm on Facebook. I talk to Courtney through Facebook. Courtney and I are connected. I wouldn't feel connected to Courtney unless I could put my arms around her and give her a big hug when I see her. And this week it's going to be like 4 days in a row. We laugh when that. Thank you, Bernie. And so it's about being bigger than ourselves. We put our trust and our faith in players and coaches. What do we put our trust and faith in normally? Something divine, something bigger than us. We dress up in uniforms. And there is a lot of, even here, even Science of Mind, we have, you would have noticed at my installation, everybody had a robe on. Most of the ministers had their shawls on. And so we have uniforms that we wear. And some religions, the minister is in a uniform every single Sunday. Because it's a place to know. I guess I don't really believe in uniforms, so I don't know where I'm going to go with that comment. Or I'd wear a uniform every Sunday. I guess I do. I normally put on my, it's not a shawl. Stole, thank you. I couldn't think of the word. I usually put my stole on every Sunday. Today I put on my Seahawks stole. So we do have dressing up, and we have rituals. And football teams have rituals. And some of them have rituals that, they wear certain socks. They do certain cheers before the games. I was a New Orleans fan when the Seahawks weren't doing really well. And Drew Brees would get out there with the team and do this chant before every single game with his team. It was the year they went to the Super Bowl. And everybody wanted to know what that chant was, and he said no. It was his prayer. It was how he got people engaged. It's what we do here on Sundays with the meditation service, getting you engaged with God. That's what meditation is, getting you engaged with God. If you don't like the word God, replace it with something. You can call it goddess. You can call it the thing itself. It doesn't matter. I choose to call it God because it just rolls off my mouth very easily. And it's some word that no matter what our background, we know what that three-letter word means when somebody says it. We all have a different interpretation of what that means to us. And that's why I like being here, is because we get to come with all of our different interpretations of what that means or doesn't mean to us. And yet we have those rituals that we do. We always have an opening song. We always have a podium practitioner. We ring the gong 3 times. In football, they're going to toss the coin, heads or tails, which decides, who gets to kick off first, what end of the field do you want to play. If you don't know the game of football, you can talk to anybody with a jersey on after service. Because they'll know something. And sometimes not. Sometimes people wear jerseys just because they want to feel like they're part of the group, right? We want to feel like we belong. That is a human desire, to feel like you belong. And what better place to feel that than here at Genesis? Because you don't have to wear a uniform. You don't have to agree with everything that I say or do, or everything that a practitioner says or does. We get to be individualized manifestations of God in form, each and every one of us. And yet we come here together on Sundays and Wednesdays and for movie nights, and it works. We usually normally, and I'm going to say that, usually normally we all get along. Sometimes not, and that's okay. Sometimes we're going to have that moment in our humanness that something when within us gets stirred. That's okay. That's another reason we're here, is to work through that, to really call forth that which is in me that wants to be healed right now. I shared with the Advanced Spiritual Living group, and I may have shared it with all of you, that when I first started being a minister, my husband was my music director, and he was up on stage. And I had spent the first many years of my life, 50 years of my life, being very jealous and very insecure. And I laughed and I always had an issue with, I'm going to throw a party and nobody's going to show up. Those were my two big things. My husband's going to leave me, and I'm going to throw a party and nobody's going to show up. So I decided to be a minister, because I want you to see what I'm doing. I am throwing a party every single Sunday. Every single Sunday I'm throwing a party. And when I was in Santa Fe, every single Sunday I was putting my husband on stage with a guitar. 60% of the population is women. Do you not think God and I had a dance that we were going like, Gayle wants to do some healing here? That's what happens in our spiritual growth. That's what happens when we start coming on Sundays and start sharing. Our fears are going to show up, and it's a good opportunity for us to go, oh yeah, that's a good opportunity for me to really walk through that. Football also gives us a false sense of control. Does it not? A lot of you are going to have parties today, and trust me, if it was the Seahawks, we'd probably be having a party here. I remember when the Seahawks went to the Super Bowl, and I was living in Santa Fe. In Santa Fe, most everybody is a Denver Broncos fan. Most everybody. And so I threw this big party. Now the thing with football is you really do think you're in control. My stomach was doing flip-flops. I thought, oh my God, Hawks, please just show up. Don't embarrass yourself. That's all I'm asking. Please. I'm sitting at the back of the sanctuary. And when they knocked Peyton Manning into the end zone, I knew right there, we're going to win this game. We're not only going to win this game, literally what happened at halftime, most of the people left. It took, was it Percy that kickoff and ran it back, and when he got into the end zone, everybody in the front two rows stood up and said, yeah, we're through here. That is life. Think about that. Think about how many times you get knocked down and think, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. That hurt too much. That was embarrassing. Whatever it is. What if you picked yourself up and said, I'm going to finish this? Because you have no idea what will happen when you walk through your fear. What will happen when you say, you know, I'll fall down and I'll get up. I look at my life, and I'm sure all of you can look at your life at times when you thought, this is the most crushing thing that has ever happened to me. I absolutely will not survive this. And yet every single one of you is sitting here right now. That is the human spirit. That is that spark within us that says, you can do this. You can do this. All of sports is a really wonderful analogy of life itself. You look at those teams at the beginning of the season, every single one of them thinks they're going to be a winner. The teams, only once has a football team gone an entire season through the playoffs and won the Super Bowl, and that was the Miami Dolphins. Once. One time. It's hard to do. You look at basketball. Michael Jordan says, of course you remember all of the shots I make that go in. Of course you remember that. Those are the highlight reels. They don't show the times I miss the basket. They don't show the times I'm in practice. They don't show me soaking in a tub of cold ice water because my body aches. And yet they play on. And that's what life is. That is what religion is. It's that coming together and playing on. It's about building community. And how we do that is things like this. You know, going to Cambodia, coming here on Sunday, being present with each other when life has hit us with a 2x4. I just realized recently that life has hit our practitioner body with kind of a 2x4 recently. It probably started in about November. And it was unnerving to watch everything that was going on, and it was kind of contained in that body. And so life happens regardless of how much spiritual knowledge you have, about how much teaching you've done, about all of that. Mary Ellen Johnson said yesterday, what got her through her dad passing was knowing that everybody here was praying for her. And that she had the tools, no matter how heartbroken she got, she had the tools to move through that. I know the same for B. I know the same for Jessica. I know that Heather, when she went through her things, that is why we come here. It's more than just, can you read all these books yourself? Absolutely. And they're beautiful. But remember in the Bible it said when 2 or more are gathered? That's why we come together. There's a part of us as humans that wants to feel connected, that wants to feel touched. And I mean physically touched by holding a hand, by giving a good morning hug. Whatever that is, we want to feel that connection. And so there's 2 things about life, or 1 thing maybe, that sometimes we forget that football is a really good analogy for. We can all do life. The issue is, are you sitting in the stands watching everybody else as they play and complaining about your life and why nothing's happening? Or do you have the courage to get out of the stands and step out on the field and begin to play? Because that's the juice. That's when life happens. That's why we're here. If you are an individualized manifestation of God in form, nobody should be sitting on the bench. Nobody. You each have a unique gift that is being called forth for you to present to the universe. And I personally don't know what your gifts are. And sometimes you know what that gift is, and you get so stuck in your fear, you can't get out there. And it doesn't matter. Can you imagine how Russell Wilson must have felt at the end of the Super Bowl when he threw the interception? Do you know how all the fans felt? I know. Absolutely. And yet he shows up and plays every single season. Every single season. That's what we're here to do. Get on the field. Show up. Dress up. Whatever that looks like to you. It doesn't matter. Be connected. I have invited you to do this before, and I will invite you again today. Have some separation time with your cell phone. As I say that, I'm doing better, by the way. Just so, yeah, thank you, B. Yeah, I am doing better. So just to know when you watch the game, if you watch the game today, some people don't, just look at that And some of you will think, oh, those people are so crazy. Look at the way they're yelling and screaming. Thank you. I agree. No. I'm going to I did ask my husband about this talk today, and he said, you could start out and say that the New England Patriots are the devil. He said that deliberately for Courtney. And since he yelled "Go Eagles," I thought I'd say that. She's very proud of being a New England Patriots fan. There's nothing we can say to deter her from that. So, and there's another one. Yay! Yeah, see, there we go. So that's what life is like, is it not? You can have differences with people. You can yell and scream. When I watch football, I am loud and obnoxious. I'll just own that. I was raised by a woman who watched football, and she was loud and obnoxious. And so I got it from her, my mother. I adored her. And Yvette Trujillo was at my house one day in Santa Fe, and she was in the kitchen, and she came out, and she doesn't watch football at all. She knows nothing about it. And she came out, and she looked at me, and she said, "You're yelling at your team." And I said, "Yeah. Why would I yell at the other team? I don't care about them." And so just to look, if you normally don't watch football, you might want to watch the game today just to think that is life. That is life. And regardless of who wins or who loses, go Eagles. I'm just saying, I'm intending that now. And here's that's the other thing. How many of us have heard praise God that we won the game. So where does that leave the other team? Praise God we lost the game. Because God doesn't care. Sorry. God doesn't care who wins the football game. Football is entertainment. We're here to spiritually grow. And why we do that here in this community is because we're loved and supported by each other, regardless of our differences. And so that's what I invite you to remember. Is football a religion? To some, yes. To me, sort of. And yet, what I take from it is, we're here to build community, and we all need to be on the field. Every single one of us needs to be on the field with our gifts. So let's just breathe in for a moment. And you can close your eyes if you want to. And so I just call in that divine oneness, that spirit itself, that thing that knows all, is all. I call it into this divine presence right here and right now, knowing truly that it doesn't really care how I dress up or show up, just wanting me to be me. Just knowing that essence, that trueness, that thing itself that expresses as me is the wondrous expression of God in form. And as I know that for me, I know that for every single one of you. That when you really decide, I'm going to be me, bold, individualized, whatever that means to you, the energy in the world, I promise you, shifts into excitement that they've got one more team player, one more person that has said yes. I know I'm here to do my best, to be my best, to embrace that which is. And so I just know that this day, even with football as an analogy, I know this very day that each person here can use that analogy to truly start to be a player, to truly know that the world would not be the same if they hadn't chosen to be here and right now. That energy would be missed and there would be a vacuum. And so we just call forth that together. That we are community. We are one. And we are building something magnificent. And so I know this is the truth as I just say thank you. Thank you for letting me venture away a little bit from talking about religion and into that field of excitement and juice that truly is religion. The oneness of spirit. The individualization of each of us to be who we are and to love each other up even when we disagree. I call it good because I know for me I call it God. And together we say, and so it is.